All right, you can see the numbers starting to tick up here. Thank you, everybody who is joining us on this, I'm going to call it auspicious Wednesday. Depending on how your evening went, you might be in various moods and mindsets, but we do enjoy the fact that you are taking some time out of your day to do something maybe a little bit positive for you and learn something about how to better your workflows and your work balance right now. So we're going to get started in just a minute or two, see if everybody has a chance to join us. So just give us a moment and then we'll dive in. I'm going to get started here. Welcome everybody to our webinar today, Scale Family Communications with Campus Content Partners. If you don't know me, my name is Mel Greiner. I'm the VP of Marketing here at CampusESP. We're so glad you took some time out of your day to join us. I'm going to walk through a couple of just logistical pieces before we get started so that everybody knows what's about to happen here. So if you've not been on a Zoom webinar in a while or one with us, your line is on mute. Unfortunately, we cannot see or hear you. That does not mean that we don't want to hear from you, of course, though. So during the conversation, if you have any comments that you'd like to share, if you have any questions for our panel, please feel free to use either the Q&A or the comment chat area in your Zoom kind of bar at the bottom of your screen. We will be keeping an eye on that to make sure that we elevate those questions to the panel so we can have a full discussion and any questions that you have can be answered. And if you do see any pieces of information today that you find particularly interesting, you do not have to worry about kind of trying to do some screen grabs or anything. Everything that you're seeing will be sent to you tomorrow. So the full recording, the deck that we are sharing, and some other information that might be helpful to you. So if you want to share it with colleagues or you just want to have it for your own notes, it'll all be in your inbox tomorrow. And if you are new to CampusESP, I know we have a mix of customers and people who maybe are considering how to scale their family engagement on the call today. We are proud to work with over 450 institutions across the country of various sizes, shapes, and makeups. And that means we are currently serving about 10 million families throughout those institutions, which is honestly pretty amazing. We are really trying to basically be a helpful tool for family and parent programs practitioners. That means that we are offering more than just a software solution. Yes, when you sign with CampusESP, you are getting a pretty comprehensive platform that allows you to have a portal, email communications, SMS, and other ways to communicate with your parents and families. But you are also getting an amazing, helpful team. About 40% of our staff have actually worked in your role before, so they really understand what you're going through and they want to be an actual supporter and consultant to make sure your job is easier and more successful. And you also get a lot of data. We have a really robust analytics section to our system that helps you understand what is working for your family so that you can continue to do more of that and improve your outcomes. And if after this call that you're super excited about all of this and you want to learn more, my first place for telling you to go is to our website, campusesp.com. We have a very full area of blogs and resources where you can find research studies, case studies, and lots of best practices articles from other individuals like you that should hopefully be really informational for you. And with that, we're going to actually dive into our topic today. To get us started, I'm going to actually just introduce the panel that is joining me today. First up is Amy McManus from UNC Wilmington. Amy, you want to say hello to everybody?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy McManus. I use she, her pronouns. And as Mel said, I'm the assistant director, or I work at UNCW. I'm the assistant director of parent and family engagement. And I'm specifically in our transition programs office, which oversees orientation, commencement, convocation, transfer programs, first year programs, all the fun things. Me specifically, I oversee Family Weekend. I'm the only person that does family specific stuff. So I oversee Family Weekend, family orientation, and CampusESP.
Great. We're also joined by another of our partners, Kevin Cook from Kansas State. Kevin, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Kevin Cook. I work at Kansas State University as a Director of Communications and Parent Engagement. I'm a one-person office who manages all things parents. That includes Family Weekend, parent communication, our Parent and Family Advisory Board, and also communications for our Student Affairs Division here at K-State. I've worked here 22 years, but have been in this role for a little over a year and a half.
Great, thank you. And lastly, I'm joined by one of my esteemed colleagues, Ashley. Ashley is our senior account manager and works with a lot of our partners, but also has previously done this role herself. So Ashley, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Ashley Perry, as Mel mentioned. I'm a former user of CampusESP during my time at Coastal Carolina University, where we were customers number 8. We utilize the family communication module to support current families. And so really tapping into my experience as a former user and, of course, working with customers to just give you more information and hopefully some advice on how to get more content admins into your platform. So super excited to be here.
Great. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Ashley and jump off camera so that you guys can dive into some really, hard details here about our content admin tools.
Thanks, Mel. All right, so just to give you some foundation of why we are communicating with families, families want and need information from institutions and on a regular basis. And so our annual surveys for both our prospective and current families show a very high interest and openness to receiving communications from institutions. And so it says weekly communication is expected, but often as needed is definitely something to consider as well. But we know that you all are one person running an office, like Amy in a way, working with just families in general. And so this is where we want you to enlist some campus partners to support you all. And so, of course, families want information, and there's a lot of ways that they can receive it, and a lot of different offices that can help support that. And so we want you to not do this on your own, but get support from various departments and how they are the expert in their offices support you in supporting those families. So of course, we want to dive deeper into what this looks like and the why. Teamwork makes the dream work. And so getting campus partners to share this information with you is important because you don't have to do it by yourself. And so you have more diverse topics and perspectives out there and in your platform using CampusESP. No departments are left out. Coming from orientation, it was hard to get every department to feel a part of orientation. Orientation can only be so long. So this is a way to get more voices in your platform and hopefully have partners not feel left out. You can have more coordinated outreach to families from one trusted source. So instead of it being in Facebook and not being correct, coming from a system like CampusESP is a way to make sure that families are getting the right information and it's from a trusted resource. We want to increase your engagement. We know that having content from you all and content partners definitely make families happy because it's coming from the source. You have higher engagement and just you're informing more families. And of course, the last but not least, biggest thing, time savings for you by getting help from campus partners. Amy and Kevin would love just to get some insight from you all about this. I know that you have enlisted campus partners to support you, so we'd love just to hear how you feel about these reasons and how maybe they support you in supporting your families. Whoever wants to go first.
I was gonna say, do you want me to go first, Kevin, or you? Yeah, I can go first, I guess. So yeah, I would just agree with everything that Ashley was just talking about. I think it is really hard to funnel so much information throughout orientation, and everyone always gets so overwhelmed by the information overload, and it's hard for family members to remember everything, remember resources. And so I think that's just a big pro of this, of having buy-in from campus partners and having them create content throughout the year. It helps remind family members things that they learned at orientation and just keeps them informed throughout the year and allows departments the opportunity to provide more information about their areas and ways that students can utilize those resources, because as we've seen, students don't really read emails. They forget about a lot of stuff, and sometimes the only way to get students to do things is to have parents remind them to do it. So, yeah, I would just echo like everything that Ashley said. I'll turn over to Kevin.
For me, one of the key pieces of this is that idea of departments not feeling left out, or that you as the person who's conveying information can ensure that the information that's being shared is correct. And that I really resonated with the whole Facebook deal, because we have like 1,000 rogue Facebook groups and I monitor them, but I'm not in charge of any of them. And my number one thing is like, just don't lie, people, stop lying. Whereas this is like a trusted source, like it says on there, and I can then rely on my campus partners to get the correct information out to families. So some of it's planned through my portal, but sometimes it might be in reaction to what I'm seeing based off of feedback or things you're hearing either at orientation or through our Facebook page for sure. And it does, people want that higher engagement piece. They do want to hear from various offices and not just the articles that come in from Campus ESP or that I might create myself that are related directly to family or parent programs. So I think that also adds to people's engagement.
Mhm. Yeah, not that they don't love hearing from people like Kevin and Amy, but I definitely can see the benefit of having your campus partners just involved because they are the expert and they have good information to share. So why not have their voice be heard in that and share it from their office directly into one system? Definitely a survivor of Facebook, definitely a survivor of eliminating um, things that were not true about certain things. So definitely using this system to just make sure everything is correct is definitely important. All right. So I bet you're wondering, like, what do families know? What do they want to know? And so we definitely are always surveying our families. We surveyed over 20,000 families to just get a better understanding of what they know or what they find valuable. And so as you can see here, this information is important and families are able to kind of find that themselves. But what we really should focus on is the gaps. And so there are areas that they definitely need more information on. So just thinking about mental health resources, that's becoming a bigger conversation across campuses and how to families support them. When I was working orientation, families were still trying to get bought into the university. And so they wanted to make sure that if their student went to that university, they had a job afterwards. So they want to know more about ROI. And of course, a big conversation around financial aid and scholarships, like how are you getting this information in front of your families to then get it in front of students? And who are you tapping to support you in this conversation? And so thinking about the gaps that you can fill just by getting some help from others from campus. And hopefully to make it a little bit easier for you, just taking some actual data from our 400 customers, we wanted to know what was most important to our families and what they were clicking on. And so as you can see here, we have prospective and current families, two-year institutions, HBCUs, and HSIs, and they all have similar clicks or topics that they're clicking on. And so as you can see here, for prospective families, they want to know about college readiness, but for current families, they want to know about parent advice and mental health resources. And so use this information to really support your content strategy, but also the folks that you are trying to get to use your platform and create content for you all. And I would love just to turn it back over to Kevin and Amy just to share more information about the partners that they have in their system creating content for them. And so we definitely encourage campus partners to be a part of this process and share information, but I know you have to, one, set that up and make them feel comfortable. So definitely want to get some feedback from Kevin and Amy on how they did this. So whoever wants to go first, I know Amy went first last, so Kevin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I the way I approached it was I gave myself about 6 months personally to get comfortable in the system and have an understanding of the flow, as well as an understanding of some of the data of what parents were clicking on and who and what they found helpful in the content. And then I was able to present initially to our student affairs area here at K-State and offer them the opportunity to join as content creators. And then my awesome client services folks at CampusESP helped schedule a training for that group. And so I left it, I opened it up and said, anybody in any office is welcome to get trained on how to do this. Here's what it does. This is why it would be helpful. Here's the data I've seen so far in regards to parent engagement. These are the kinds of questions we're getting through my email or through phone calls that I receive in my office. So trying to contextualize it, kind of like we talked about earlier. The folks that you see listed here are the ones who are most consistently providing posts to me. And there's a host of reasons why I think that is. Housing and dining is kind of a no-brainer. Most, particularly incoming students or first year and second year students, are going to need information about that. And the parents have tons of questions about how all of that works. It also helps them know that they got information out. So one of the posts that I just approved today was the dining hall hours for winter break. So then the parents know this is when the last meal is served. This is when all the stuff, right? So I think that that's helpful. One of the other things I want to bring up during this part was to share that sometimes these folks might not be the ones that are posting, but I might lean into them if there's an article that's coming from CampusESP or from one of the national blogs that might be relevant or connected to that office and the work that they do. Because oftentimes what I try to do is take those articles and add K-State relevant information into it where it seems to make sense at the beginning, the end, etc. So again, to kind of provide an example, this summer, there was an article about students with disabilities and how parents should encourage their student to utilize that office. At K-State, that office is called the Student Access Center. So I wanted to make sure that the information that the article was providing and what parents were getting aligned philosophically, but also that I was directing them to what our office is called, because every place calls it something different, and making sure that they understood that piece. So I just connected with the colleague who runs that office, who's the director of that office, and he was very thankful to be involved and really liked the content from CampusESP because it was in very parent-friendly language. It was very supportive. It was very person first. And then just tweaking it to make it fit the K-State culture and our processes and systems. So it really was nice in that way. Yeah, so those are a lot of the things that I try to do. And now that folks are seeing that these offices are putting information in there, I'm starting to get other offices that are stepping up to the plate a little bit, because once they're added as a content admin, they can see the portal. And so they're seeing, oh, my friend over here in this office, they wrote an article. Oh, well, maybe we should write an article. So there's some of the one-upsman kind of behavior that takes place as well, which isn't bad for families because then they get additional information.
I love the FOMO that you are building in your platform, but I also love the example of sharing it with your actual partners on campus. We are putting in content for you all as customers, and we want to make sure that it's appropriate for your campus. And so sharing that with your campus partners, just one, check and make sure it's relevant and it fits the brand and vision of your university is a great best practice, Kevin. So I really appreciate that. Amy, anything that you would like to add about your partners that you have in your platform?
So yeah, the list you see here kind of similar to Kevin's list as far as the active partners in here. It definitely has taken some time to gain some traction and momentum. And there's definitely still room for improvement with like frequency of posting. But like our student success and retention office, they're one of our most frequent posters because they are trying to remind students frequently of like making sure they register for classes, making sure that they're getting their payment made, and so that they're continuing and we're retaining these students. And so they really like quickly bought into posting because there before Campus ESP, there wasn't a great way to communicate with families all in one place. So I think that's been the most helpful with recruiting, so to speak, content partners. Is that now there is this place where we have, over 14,000 users in our system, just from being up for like almost a year and a half now. And so there's a lot of buy-in in that regard because it's easy to communicate and get that information out to parent and family members, whereas before that didn't really exist. So um, definitely want to try and keep it, like I said, going, and try and improve the frequency of content partners posting, because as Kevin mentioned, Campus ESP provides curated content and articles, which is great, but I found that parent and family members are more interested in hearing from campus partners. So the more that I can get them to utilize it and try to post and be creative with things, I think the better. So.
For sure. Amy, there's something that sticks out to me. You have parent council on here. Are these family members posting content, or is this like your advancement office specifically?
Oh yeah, that is our advancement office, because we are separate from Parents Council is run by advancement, which is completely separate from us, because I fall under student affairs. So Parents Council actually recently I created a community for them, and they post in there, but then also they will post about like giving opportunities, joining parents council, things like that. We're a little unique in that we don't have a family association. I know a lot of institutions have some sort of family association, and then they may also have some sort of giving as well. Right now, we just have the parents council. So they advancement, again, it's like there's no great list, right, of all the family members. So when we bought into Campus ESP, they quickly were like, "Oh, we would love to gain access to the list because, they're trying to get money from family members." I know there's a question in the chat as far as tips for getting buy-in from campus partners that say they don't have time or resources to make posts. So that I would definitely say can be a little bit of a struggle. Like I tried really hard this past semester to uh, get buy-in from our colleges to try and bring that and incorporate that into Campus CSP because we currently don't have any content administrators that are from any of our colleges. And it ended up being like a no, we don't really have time for right now. Like reach back out to us once we've like done some things. But I think really reiterating with people that making a post can literally take like 5 minutes. And now with the AI stuff too, they can even use the AI feature to create stuff, which makes it even faster. But I think what I've found is helpful is providing suggestions for things because sometimes campus partners will kind of hint at like, I don't have time for this. This is just one more thing. It's like I don't even know what I would post about. And so if you can have like concrete examples of and suggestions of things that they could post about, as well as allow them to post like they could be posting the same thing again like once a semester, or once a year because every year you get the first year families, you get all the new users, so you don't have to start from scratch. But if you can provide examples of things like having like for instance the University Learning Center, I told them it'd be nice if they could have one of their students that tutor and work for them provide a student perspective about the Learning Center and the services offered and how students can take advantage of that. So if you can provide examples of things and really just try and make it like as easy as possible when walking through training, like really reiterate that it doesn't take a lot of time and that like I'm there to support them if they need help. I think that's a good way to be helpful. But I just also really tried to reiterate like I'm not expecting you to post every week. And I think sometimes there's a lot of fear in that when you first approach them about being content administrators. Everyone's minds go to like social media and being super active on it. And so I really try to reiterate like it could be once a semester or it could be a couple times a semester. So I hope that helps answer the question. Kevin, I don't know if you have any other things to add about.
I just think using the data to tell the story is very helpful. So, again, kind of as I was building my plan, I gave myself a little time before inviting folks in. And then I was able to say, see, these are the things that people want to know about. And oh, guess what? You're the expert in that, not me. Like, I'm great. I've worked here 22 years. I know a whole lot of things, but I don't know how your office works day to day or what is the most important thing for people to know about your programs or resources based on what time of the academic year it is. So kind of like as Amy was sharing about student success and retention, sharing key messages at key moments, right? So those are the things that like the data helped me kind of get people energized. And then again, I presented at the beginning of this year about our platform and the communication, and that got other people who were like, oh, I see that the health center posted things in there and they got lots of clicks on vaccine requirements for attendance or whatever. And they're like, how do we do that? Great. Come on over. Happy to welcome you.
They just need to see it. And so you providing those examples, as Amy was saying, and then the data that Kevin is sharing, it helps get the buy-in that you need. And something that I noticed with your content partners, a lot of this is like information that helps remove barriers to students. And so if you're looking for ways to just get started, think of the offices that get a lot of phone calls, that should get information in front of families, and maybe even start there when it comes to creating content or getting content from those folks, because we know that a lot of offices during move-in or even winter break, as we were mentioning, they get a lot of questions and they need things, they need information. And so this is a great strategy to get started just by even asking those high traffic offices for some support. And I know that Kevin and Amy shared a few things about recruiting content partners. Do you have anything else you want to add here about that?
I would just say I made a list or I made a spreadsheet of all the people I wanted to reach out to and the contact and drafted like an email about, explaining what it is, how I think that they could fit into it, and then I set up individual like training meetings, which I know it did take a good amount of time, but I think sometimes an individual approach with something like this can be really helpful because I found like when I presented to just like a large group of people, no traction really happened. Like it was kind of like, oh yeah, this is great, but then there was no like follow up. And so by me meeting with people individually, and walking them through it and giving them examples of things, I think helped people be more willing to become a content administrator. And I don't limit how many can do it. I know somebody asked about like if I approve posts. So yeah, they're set up to where they would create a post and then I have to approve all the posts. So that makes me feel better in the sense that like they can't just write whatever they want and it's going to get posted. So um, yeah, that's what I would add to that.
I love that one-to-one approach. I think people think you have to have everyone bought in and then do a training. And Amy, with your success, it sounds like having one-to-one meetings and doing it, scaling it, and recruiting people as you can is a great way to do it in campus ASP.
Yeah, and it's helpful to have or kind of tweak like examples of things based off of, who you're talking to. Like for athletics, for instance, it makes sense for them to post some more events because they're gonna post games with like discounted tickets, whereas other offices like posting events doesn't really make sense. Like it makes more sense to just create a post. So yeah, I found that is helpful.
Kevin, anything you want to add? Awesome. Cool. So we're going to be hopeful. We're going to believe that everyone can recruit content admins to be a part of your platform. And so there are really two different ways that you can do this on your campus. And so the first one is more of a manual and traditional approach where departments send content to you specifically, and then you put that into the platform for them. And this is basically best for team members who want to curate that content themselves. So I know that others would rather have content admins do it themselves, but if you rather get the content and you put it in, 100% can do that. It's also great for maybe teams that have multiple newsletters by either class year or audience type. And then, of course, for partners who need a little bit more direction. So they're not as tech savvy as you would like them to be, or they need to fit a certain standard when it comes to your posting. This is a great way to just have you do that and be the owner of it and feel confident in what's being put out into your system. And of course, the next way is what we encourage is you having different campus partners be content admins and granting them limited permission into your system. And so they will be allowed to upload their own content directly into CampusESP. But of course, like Amy and Kevin, they are owners of the platform. So we'll go right to them to approve it, edit it, or reject that content if it's not relevant for the time of year or for the campus. And so this is a great way just to, one, give some ownership to your campus partners, have them feel connected to the platform and use it, but then it still has an approval process by your CampusESP champion or owner on campus. And just to walk you through what that looks like, this is what Amy's platform looks like from UNCW. And so essentially what happens here is the content admin will have their own page or own login to CampusESP. And as you can see, there's limited access as what they can do when they're in CampusESP. So on that far left side, they have a little bit more tools on the left side to select from. But as you can see here, they can create a post or create an event. And then of course, after they create the event or post, they can view that. But essentially they will put in their information into this page here, follow all the steps, include a photo if they wish, we encourage it. You can use the AI tools as Amy mentioned, or write your own text here, and then essentially it gets submitted for review. And as you can see here, Amy and Kevin will have full admin permissions, so they will get a notification that they have pending posts that need to be reviewed, and so they can click into it, review it, make sure it looks good. They can edit things if they wish, and again, reject it if they need to. All right. So we want to make sure we have more time for questions, but I'll leave you with some advice from us as your team today. And so one thing that we've talked about a lot is identifying your key partners and using the data from your platform. So this data is the platform is pulling so much data that will be helpful for your conversations with campus partners. And so leverage that. Use the community section, use the onboarding survey to just then get buy-in here. I know, Kevin, you talked about this a lot. Is there anything that you want to add specifically here?
I think some of this is going to be intuitive if you worked at a university or college for any period of time, but there could be things that surprise you also. So I have been surprised by how frequently my families click on kind of that parent transition information, that relationship management information that Campus ESP tends to provide. And so then that makes me think, okay, what campus partners can I engage around those topics, right? Or can I bring into that content? Because families will click on it. Like my 23-24 number one clicked on article was the 6 reasons why it's okay to cry when you drop your kid off at college, right? I didn't write that. That came from a blog from Campus ESP. But what who could have I invited into that conversation? So again, the data doesn't necessarily always change exactly what you do, but it might inform how you move forward and it might surprise you.
Yes. The one thing that I always share with customers when they're trying to get campus partners involved, share all the data with them, keep them informed, encourage them to just do one post or one announcement and just see the ROI on that. And so I think just giving them as much information and insight into what you're gathering and what they're doing, what families are doing in the platform will make all the difference for sure. The next one is help your partners to understand the benefits of engaging families. And I think Amy talked about this a lot with just the one-to-one sessions that you mentioned, but also just maybe even explaining more in depth in that conversation what they're going to get from it. So Amy, I would love to hear if you have anything else you would like to add about engaging your partners.
Yeah, I mean, I would, in this instance, I'd use the example of housing and residence life. That office on campus is always crazy, leading up to move in, and getting all those questions from first year families, once like housing assignments go out and things like that. And so, we found, this year and last year that's been really helpful, sending an email announcement out with final move-in tips. And I worked with housing to send this, and it helped them mitigate a lot of confusion and questions. So they saw a great improvement on a lower number of like phone calls and emails with those commonly asked questions. So I think the more that you can uh, really showcase like how beneficial it can be to that office. Again, the more interested and willing, and grateful they're going to be for being able to utilize Campus ESP.
We had a lot of confusion, especially with onboarding at orientation, that they had to sign up for orientation first before they could sign up for housing. And so it's just a step that's really hard for families and students to understand. And so just thinking about how you could get ahead of phone calls just by even putting these steps into an announcement or a post and just letting them know that you have to do this before this would help reduce some of those phone calls and hopefully questions too.
Sure.
Next one is have regular meetings to coordinate messaging based on seasonality on current concerns. And so Amy and Kevin both talked about great use cases here, but Kevin, I would love to hear more about you getting your campus partners maybe to edit a post in the system to make it more K-State vibe-like, or if you just encourage them to create messaging around some of those high key times on campus.
So I am lucky in that I oversee communications for our division as well. And there are communication related folks spread out amongst our division, or folks who kind of take ownership for that in our various areas. And we meet monthly to just discuss a whole host of things. But there's always time in our agenda to talk about the parent portal and parent communication and encouraging them to think about where we are in the academic year, what are the things they need to be communicating, those kinds of pieces. So I don't have a meeting specifically related to Campus ESP each month, but I do incorporate it into that meeting and that conversation. And then I think the next bullet also talks about this, but we use the Campus ESP kind of planning calendar, communication planning calendar as a basis for our divisional communication plan, and then shared that broadly with all of those folks to influence any social media they might do, but also post into Campus ESP. And so we've seen some of that where, like, our Dean of Students office here at K-State has shared some very specific content based on the time of year and kind of what the theme is for each month as well. So kind of these two bullets for me go hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. I think timely information is important. And so at Campus ESP, we have 2 different blog posts for prospective and current families, focusing on like the most important content based on the time of year. So even if you don't know where to start, we do have blog posts that we can share with you all on what you should maybe share, given that it's November going into December. And so what is important to share with families now. And so, and you can also just talk with campus partners about what they will want to go out around this time of year too. And so that's another way to get information out and hopefully get some buy-in from campus partners as well.
The other thing I would add, I just thought of this, is that like oftentimes these folks are communicating in some way to students, likely via email or your campus information system or however they are communicating. And so that's another part of these conversations in our communications meeting is like, can you adapt that for the parent audience so that the student is getting it and the parent might be getting it at the same time? So for example, financial aid is communicating with students about stuff. So can you just go in the system and tweak it a little bit and make it work for families? Those kinds of pieces where it gets also to that idea that it's not extra work necessarily. It's just one more step that'll take 5 minutes and then you kind of move on. So having kind of those kinds of conversations can help too.
Yeah, and we know families want the information, so take the extra step and make it happen. And we know that families will then talk with their students. They're going to force the conversation. So that's always helpful in the long run.
I was also going to add, I just thought about, I am a student as well, so I get like student emails too, messages catered towards, UNCW students, but our most clicked on post last year was about financial aid and scholarships, and that I didn't even end up having them do. I literally just copied and pasted what they sent to students and then just tweaked the verbiage. And that ended up being our most clicked on post. And then I was able to use that as an example to financial aid about like, hey, they're really interested in your topic, like please post please post more. Yeah, showing that rate of return. But yeah, and the other thing too, the last thing I was going to add, I haven't done this yet, but it's on my list this year. I'm planning to create like a team site for Campus ESP for our content admins. And I think that's a really easy way, or will be a really easy way to communicate with everyone, have like my guide in there, some files, some examples, content map, things like that. So that's just an idea too, as a way to organize all of that.
And that's perfect timing because Amy, that kind of falls in line with our last bullet point. Our last tip is sharing more information with content partners about their content and just getting that ROI to them. And so the more that they post and see that ROI and the impact that they're making, hopefully will encourage your campus partners to continue to do it. And so I think even if it's just an email saying these are the stats for the month or for the quarter, whatever the case may be, just letting them know this is how your content is doing and this is making a huge impact with families, I think would encourage them to continue to do it throughout the year. Since that was our last tip, anything else you would like to add, something we didn't talk about that you want to share? Good. Awesome. All right. I know y'all been answering questions in the chat. Are there any that we missed? I'm gonna get caught up.
I was going to say, there's not any new ones I think that we've missed, but there might be a couple that were shared, were answered privately that might be worth kind of sharing with the larger audience here. So I'm going to kind of just dig back here a little bit. Well, if you have any more questions that you haven't had answered, please put them in the chat right now. That one I know was definitely answered publicly. There was one here about, oh yeah, I think, both of our panelists today and a lot of we talked about today is about creating content for the families of currently enrolled students. Somebody asked about how to get buy-in from departments when you're trying to create content for prospective students. Some offices may kind of handle both of those sides of the coin. So I don't know if either of our panelists actually do that, but at the minimum, I'm sure Ashley has some ideas on how departments might be wanting to get in front of those prospective families as they're going through that admissions journey.
We don't currently focus a ton on prospective family members. We do have that community set up, and there are some that have joined. I did meet with our admissions team earlier this year to talk about that, and that's something that we're looking at, or they're looking at utilizing CampusESP to send some stuff out to prospective, but we haven't really done that yet. But I think it would be super easy to, add in that prospective community, tag that community in a post that's like relevant to not only current families, but prospective as well. And it wouldn't be, more work.
I definitely think the same type of recruiting strategies is important that Amy and Kevin have shared. I think it's just using those same partners, but to speak from a lens of a prospective family member. And so it's like getting them excited of what they could be doing at that university or what's available to them at this university is how I would flip it versus like, this is what's available to you as a current family member and student. So it's basically, you can still use the same partners, but they just maybe need to change how they frame information to hopefully get those students and families excited about being a part of that community.
Thanks, Ashley. And there's another question from earlier in the meeting about when we were kind of talking a little bit about Facebook and the misinformation that can grow rampant on some of those pages, particularly if they're not heavily monitored by the institution. So somebody had asked, when they're monitoring Facebook accounts, how do you kind of guide these families to the portal as a more reliable source of information than them just relying on these Facebook groups? I know, Kevin, you shared some of your practices directly with the question, with the individual who asked the question. But if you want to share that more publicly with the group, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I like to say that I'm a lurker on these pages. I don't actively participate if I can avoid it, because I don't want there to be the perception that this is somehow now a university sanctioned form of communication. What I have found is that often here at K-State, I can't speak for anywhere else, other parents will correct or there's like some self-monitoring that's happening. But if there's like a falsehood that continues to persist, then I will insert myself into the conversation and share the correct information and then drive them to my webpage and some other things where there's a direct link to Campus ESP to my platform. What I will say is that I took on this role in an interim basis before taking it full time, and that interim time period, we did not have Campus ESP, but I was still answering all these phone calls and monitoring the Facebook pages and stuff. And what I will say is that I have noticed since we launched Campus ESP and parents are getting more consistent communication from the university, that there are fewer like of those easy to find questions that get asked on those parent forums, if that makes sense, because they're getting it from the university in a timely manner or at a time that works better for them. And not just at orientation or not just, at the end of the year. There's still wild things that people ask on there, but not as much of the mundane kinds of things that could be solved by Googling or that they can get through the portal.
Definitely good. We have one more question that just came through. How do you motivate a campus partner who was once really excited about the platform, but is now not really posting since they were actually added to the system? It sounds like they've tried a couple of different ways to get them re-engaged, like a monthly communication plan, like we were just talking about, but aren't quite having luck. So have you guys had any people who kind of started to fall off their schedule a little bit, and how were you able to get them back in and participating?
I definitely have had that, and it's on my list for in the next like month or two to try to get a few of them back involved again. I think one thing I'm gonna try possibly once finalizing like content schedule more is sending calendar invites to those people. I think it'd be worth maybe trying to have a touch point with some of them on, you know, like just finding out why is there a reason why you haven't been using it? Is it because you're short staffed? Is there anything that I can do? Maybe just trying to find out like what is the reasoning behind it first, and then going from there. And if it is like a matter of like time or yeah, maybe they are short staffed. I think that's where maybe you offer to like help them create something, or just like ask like would you mind posting just like one time this semester, like could you send me something and I'm happy to tweak it, things like that. I think if I create the team site, I think that'll be helpful because I'll be able to send like chat messages and like reminders to try and keep it fresh. But again, echoing to some of what we talked about, really just trying to showcase the data, as well as if you use like the survey feature in Campus ESP, which I haven't done that yet, but on our orientation survey, there was a question about like what topics and things do you want to see in Campus ESP that would be helpful for you. We have that data point of what they're interested in, and so I'm planning to use that as well to show campus partners like, hey, they really do want to hear from you. So I don't know how helpful that is, but that would be my approach.
Looks like Candace also just shared some of her experience doing this in the chat. Thank you. Lots of good stuff to share here. All right, it looks like that's all of our questions. Thank you both to Amy and Kevin, not only for your time today, but sharing some of your documentation that you're sharing here. This is extremely helpful. I think this is what this is all about, is learning from each other and sharing best practices and helping each other in this crazy journey that we're all on. So really appreciate your insights, time, and information. Thank you to Ashley for sharing your expertise as well, both from being a campus practitioner as well as helping out, a bunch of our customers here at CampusESP. And thank you to you all for joining us today. I'm going to leave you on this last slide, which has a couple of things that you can do if you are not currently a CampusESP customer and want to learn more, including our resources, our newsletter, and our demo form. If you do want to sign up and see the platform firsthand, we'd love to show it to you and kind of explain some of the things you kind of got a sneak peek at today. And then if you do want to ask any additional questions, our panelists are kind enough to share their personal emails here. So if you want to reach out and get a little bit more information or ask a question or two, please feel free to. They have graciously agreed to answer those questions for you offline. And that's all we've got for you today. So I just want to say thank you one more time to everybody who joined us today. Yes, and Amy just noticed that she's going to be at NODA next week if you guys want to talk with her. So will Ashley. So CampusESP will be there as well. So if you are going to NODA next week or AHAP the week after that, we will be at both of those too. So please reach out there in real life as well. That'd be a great way to get to know some of you. All right, with that, I'm going to wrap it up and everyone can get back to their day. All of this information will be in your inbox tomorrow. Thank you again for joining us and have a good one, guys.